Okay. First, I want to welcome everybody, and I want to break the news. Thanks to my good friend over here, Jason. He's officially getting me trademarked. So in another week, it'll be a final. And I see Jerry, he got some trusses, floor trusses from me. If anybody's going to build a building, I've got some that's 30 foot. You can build them. Building with it. I've got a lot of 12s and 14s. You can put them together and join them in the middle and still get a good coverage. We're using them for basically for hive stands. Jerry's got a picture up on my Facebook page. They make excellent stands. You couldn't build stands that cheap. Now, I got them listed at $1 a foot, but now I've got 28 or 30, that's 30 plus feet. And the best offer I got them is $400. That would cost you a lot more than that. So even though I've advertised them for $1 a foot, I'm negotiable. So let's get started. I hope you got questions. First thing I want to talk about is hive tools. You see this hive tool, how dull it is? That's the first thing you want to do is keep your hive tool dull so you don't hurt yourself. You'll cut your wrist open. I don't see if you can see. You see that there? That's from this part of the hive tool right here. You will swing your arms as you're walking. These are some safety things that you should learn. Dull your hive tool up. I don't recommend those J hooks because you're going to tear up your frames. And if you're in the business to sell frames, it's hard to sell them when they're all tore up. And the next thing is, if you haven't got a web page and you're not on the Fat Bee Man web page as a student, you need to contact my webman, Elizabeth here, and get on there. It'll help you sell. And if you've got your web page, if you don't have a web page up, I believe he can kindly get you up and running. So I'm open for questions tonight. So I hope everybody's got a good question for me tonight.
All right, Paul has one already. Go ahead, Paul.
Don, how you doing? I spoke with you last week, and I have a question. Like I mentioned, I'm getting 2 packages and 3 nukes, and I know you say to install the packages in nuke boxes, but I have 10 frame hives, and I was wondering, can I put them in there and put a division board in there to take up the space if I'm to only use 5 frames?
If you're going to do that with a 10 frame box, I would suggest get you a brad gun or something. And if you're going to use like a 2x10 or a 2x12, fasten it. Because I've had people that, I like to start everything in 5 frame because they can build faster. But if you don't fasten that follower board, that's what you're using it as, a follower board. If you're getting there to manage your hive or look in there, if that thing moves and falls over, I've seen where people kill queens that way. So take the time, shoot a thin brad in there, you can pull it out.
Now, also with the oxalic acid, you can use that during a honey flow as well?
Yes. There's a lot of things that you eat that contain oxalic acid. You know, don't go hog wild. I mean, if you're putting packages in, you don't have any kind of problems to start with. If you think you have, dust them with powder sugar. You shouldn't have to treat for mites for at least 6 weeks, and that would be if you're starting out like in the end of, say, April, you're going into May and June, then you're going to start getting some mites.
All right. And what about the nukes? You think I have to worry about anything with them as well, or?
6 weeks, I wouldn't worry about treating at all. If you're paranoid about treating, you could take a paper towel and put it on the frames and the top bars and put a little mineral oil on there, or you can dust them down with sugar. That's very weak type treatments. They ain't going to affect the bees one way or the other. That oxalic acid, the only way it does any harm to bees if you dribble. And dribbling will be an effective way to kill mites, but you can't do it with honey on, and you can't do it with open brood. It's going to kill them. So if you don't have the oxalic vaporizer, then your next thing is to fog them. You can fog them.
I just have one other question with frames.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I bought the wedge type, and I tell you, I'm sick and tired of cutting that strip out. So I went over to the groove top bar, groove bottom bar.
Mm-hmm.
You think those are good frames for extracting?
Well, I mean, I don't understand what you mean good frames. They're all good frames for extracting. The wedge bar holds your waxing. The groove top bar is basically built for plastic.
Yeah.
Now, if you're going to start with like a foundation, and
I'm
you're going to have a
starting with
start
plasticell.
plasticell, you're already having a lot of negatives starting. You can use it. I mean, try it. See, you have to learn sometimes by experience. But that groove, you could put a starter strip of foundation in there and take a paintbrush and dip it in the hot wax and give it a quick stroke at each side. It'll hold it in there.
Well, you think the bees will have a hard time drawing out the plasticell?
Yeah, a lot of people use it, but it has more drawbacks than I think it has things. If you want to build numbers up and you get queen cells, how are you going to get them off?
Yeah.
You can't get them off. So if you're building numbers, you need natural stuff that you can cut.
Yeah.
The next thing with plastic is you need to pour the feed to them, not watered down Kool-Aid. Put the sugar to them. On a nuke, you're going to need 20 to 25 pounds of sugar. On a package, 25 to 35 pounds of sugar. That's what it's going to take to get it up and running.
Yeah. All right, thanks.
Okay.
Okay, Ro, go ahead.
Yeah, you can probably hear my saw going in the background. My grandfather and I are in the middle of making a bunch of 8-frame boxes right now.
Oh, well, that's good.
Complete with, we made the wedge type frames. Got all of our frames made and put together, and we're cutting the dado for the box joint now. So we're making good progress.
Good. Are you doing a regular box joint? Or are you doing a rabbit joint?
We're doing a rabbit joint just like we're following your video and the plan we got from you.
A box joint is interlocking like that, the corners.
Right. No, we're just doing the 3/4, 3/8 dado.
Right. Your rabbit joint will hold up many years. I think it'll last a lot longer than box joint. A box joint, you have twice the side end pieces facing the weather. So that's usually what happens. Those box joints, they rot out on you in about 4 or 5 years. Keep them good and painted and they hold up. But my experience is rabbit joints, I got boxes out here 25, 28 years old and they're still usable.
Oh, that's great. I'm glad to hear that. Here's a picture I'll show off right quick. There's the top bar there. And let me see if I can figure out how to do that again. The only thing we bought is we bought the sidebars because we found a good deal on them, man leg sidebars. So then we made everything to match those sidebars basically. And let's see. There's all of our tack strips. Got all those done. And let's see if I can find a picture. We just cut the boxes, the boards to length, and we haven't put the dados on them yet. But that's what we're in the middle of. There's our boxwood. We found some shelving that was some really pretty lumber, not a knot in it. And
good stuff.
There's a picture of our boxes. So going to be some comfortable bees. I think
there's nothing really wrong. We made a lot of our own frames many years ago, but you have to kind of value your time. If you get a good deal on them, on your wood and stuff, when you're cutting your own frames and that, you're going to have probably 15 to 20% losses because of knots and stuff. Unless you're buying premium lumber, it's almost cheaper just to buy your frames.
This stuff, luckily, is free lumber, and it was totally not free. So.
Free lumber is good, you can afford to put your time in it.
Yeah.
Once you get up to about 20 to 25 hives, it's totally impractical because you're either going to be pulling honey or making splits, so you won't have the time to, unless you wait till wintertime and try to do your build-ups there, and build your stuff.
Yep. So we should be, we haven't built any tops yet. We got to build the tops tomorrow and the bottoms. And
those go quick.
That's really all we lack. After that, we should be just add bees and we'll be good to go.
Yep.
Okay.
That's really all I had. Not really a question, more like bragging, really.
All right, Sean, go ahead.
Alrighty, how you doing tonight?
Hey,
So I heard you talk about breeder queens, and I was wondering if maybe you could expand on that and kind of explain. I think I know what you're talking about, but I just want to be sure.
if you're going to sell bees and you're going to advertise that you got, let's say, pure Italians or pure Caucasian, pure Russian, and you want to specialize in that, then I would suggest buy artificially inseminated, from a reputable dealer. I don't think that's the way to go because you're just starting out, and most of you are, so you're going to make mistakes in the next 3 years. And when you put out $300, $400 for a queen and you make that mistake, couple queens a year, it gets into the pocket.
Right.
You can get a good production queen that's got a mixed breed that's pretty gentle that gets you by and do the same thing. I personally won't buy artificially inseminated queens until the person that does the artificial insemination will guarantee that queen will not fly out and remate. And to this point, I've talked to about 6 breeders and no one will do that. So that's man-made artificial insemination. It works good on cattle because they stay in the pen. Bees have a tendency to leave the box and go out and remate. So that's just my thought. Maybe it's not the right, way to think about it, but that's the way I think about it.
All right. So my thoughts were actually nothing close to that. So,
If you're looking for a breeder queen, I sell breeder queens here, but the way I do it is you come here. I won't sell them in the mail. You go look at the hive, and I'm going to show you the pattern, and I'm going to show you how she's laying, and you pick it right then. I'm not going to send you one and have it beat up in the mail. And
Right.
if someone can't come here and pick up a breeder queen, which unless you've got your name out there and you're selling like 10,000 queens a week, I don't think you need to invest in breeder queens.
right.
I would say buy maybe queens from 5 different breeders that you have some faith in and hope you got a good gentle bee, because let them open mate.
All right. The only other things I have, kind of goofy questions. Are there certain colors of clothing you do not want to wear? And I heard that bees don't like stink, as in.
Well,
get
I've
body-
heard just about everything. And 2 summers ago, we actually shot, one of the students was up here, shot a video. Everybody said, don't eat a banana in the bee yard. And I think maybe Jerry was here one day and I ate a banana out in the bee yard, and I put my face up on a beehive. There's a lot of old wives' tales. I don't think have much, truth in them. But I don't like to wear dark colors personally because I'm out in the sun most of the day. I usually wear, anything from a light t-shirt to, maybe an off-color t-shirt.
Okay. All right.
But beards now, you didn't ask me about beards. The problem about beards is they'll fly up and they get in there and they get stuck and then they get aggravated.
Yeah, it gets cut off during the summer, so it'll be all right.
If you got long hair, I try to tell the women that come up here, if you got long hair, try to tie it up in a tight ponytail. And if you're going to wear a baseball hat, put the bill to the back, because the bees have a tendency to fly up and hit that bill and they'll nail you across the forehead or they'll get you across the strap in the back.
Okay.
But I like a straw hat because, for the simple reason is you only got 2 hands. And if you're holding a frame up and the bees start to bother, you could take a big brim hat and work it back and forth and just kind of move the bees out of your way.
Okay. Sounds good. I appreciate it, Don.
Okay.
Okay, Shane, go ahead. Hey, Don.
Hey.
I was posted that picture the other day about building that bottom board with that angle on it.
Mm-hmm.
But somebody pointed out to me that they only lift theirs up in the winter in the back like that. Do you keep all yours lifted that 1.5 inches all year round?
Yep.
Okay. Wasn't sure on that.
You can have too little of a pitch, but I don't think you'll have never too much. I've had as much as a 3-inch stood a 2x4 up, you know. Well, I actually didn't stick it up. You could almost stick a 2x4 standing up on it, because when you set them up, I like at least when I set them up a half a bubble. But if you get them fairly level, your hive stands, and then just put a 2x4 into the back, you're going to get an 1.5 inch fall. And then if you got much honey in that box, you run a double deep with a super, and you got 5 or 8 hives on that stand, the weight of it will push it down if you get some rain in there. So you might have to correct it. I've had them in the back here that was 3 inches and, you know, and a long row. Deers had pushed them over just rubbing their antlers on them.
Okay, I was thinking about building the whole hive stand, just raising the whole back of it up, that whole 1.5 inches, the whole, you know, probably 16 feet, and just build it that way.
Well, you can do it that way. To me, it's a lot easier to do it by the hives, because you might have 2 or 3 in there that you don't want that much fall on. You might have a shallow feeder in there, and if you're feeding honey, you don't want it running out the front.
Okay, well, I'm building all new stuff with that new design unit.
Yeah.
So I've got the shoe boxes.
Mm-hmm. And hopefully, the people that are stuck on 10 frame that don't want to get away from it, my son's going to redo the 8 frame to where you can have 2 those pans in there. So you'll have 3 gallons to a 10 frame. We're going to get the plans up, and that way, if you need to download them, we'll have all the measurements and everything. We can download them.
Right. All right. I just figure, since I'm starting from scratch again, you know, because last year didn't work out so good, I'm just trying to make sure I do everything, think ahead, so I don't have to keep redoing everything, you know?
Well, don't overthink things. Keep it as simple as possible, you know. The main thing is do change outs on your hives. Right now, if you got bees went through the winter, change your hives out, make sure your bottoms is clean. Have enough equipment that you can change every box on your property, change it out at least once. That gives you time to work other hives, and then when you got time, you can do some painting and repairing on the ones you're pulling down.
Right. All right, thank you.
Okay. Jason Bragg, go ahead.
Hey, Don.
Hey.
Quick question about painting boxes. I've been building 5 frames and 8 frames, and they're sticking together where you set them on top of each other even after the paint dries. You can get a little paint around the top rim and they stick. Is there some
Don't
trick to
paint your
that?
top rim. If you're
I
talking
try
about,
not to, but a little gets on there.
right. Well, this is about the best thing to do is, you know, get up out of the corner and just pry them loose. I like to stack them up as high as I can reach, or the students can reach. I got a lady that's not real tall, and I guess she's got them about 6 or 7 high. And I like to put a cement block across them. I don't know if anybody's thought about that. I mean, to me, it's just simple. You stack them up and they're slippery. So if you stick a cement block across them, crosswise, it holds enough weight down when you're getting towards the top and you're painting. They don't push and slide over on you. There's nothing more aggravating to get them halfway painted and they slide, and you reach up and grab the stack and you got a handful of paint.
I've been painting them one at a time here in my converted shop. I just set them on top of an old bird cage. You can see I've got one sitting over here now, and paint them on that. I haven't made enough yet to stack them up very high, but
well, one thing you could do if you have an old ladder, I've got 2 old ladders out here, and we'll do them, you know, like that, and you can that way they don't stick together. But we don't have that.
Try that.
That pleasure of doing like 5 or 6 at a time. We've got 50 out there right now stacked that just got painted, and those got to go to the bee yard, and then put some more that need painting out there.
Most I can get done probably is 1 or 2 in the evening by the time I get home from work. So, but I've just been doing it this way. But even when you set them, like after you paint them and you think they're dry, and you stack them up for later, and then you go back to get them, they're all stuck together.
Right. Well, you know, there's a lot of times there's so many little things that I don't even think about that most people don't think about. One thing that one person might like is a roller, but then you have to go back with a brush and get the handles. If you're going to paint, you know, say 3 weeks, take saran wrap, put your brush in it or your roller and put it in saran wrap. It'll stay fresh for, you know, 3-4 weeks.
Okay. Thank
I mean, that's just a simple thing. Everybody knows that, I guess.
Ziploc bag works really well for that kind of stuff, rollers and paintbrushes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mike and Tracy, go ahead.
Yeah, just quickly, who would you recommend? I mean, who do you have that's close to Idaho if I want to buy some queens?
Who would I recommend for what?
To ship some queens to Idaho.
To- well, are you wanting honey or you want to make a lot of bees?
I want bees. Right, I have bees. But I
Yeah.
want to start converting to small cell. So
Well, you could try Alvarez. I mean, he's got a fairly decent thing of bees, you know. I mean, if you want to get cells shipped to you, Mariska has them out of Florida. Indian River sells them too. I mean,
no, I'm looking for the small cell queens.
if you're up north, you might get Kirk Webster. He's got a lot of small cell queens. But if you haven't got anybody on their list now, I don't think you're going to find queens right now because everybody's sold out.
No, not right now. I'm up in North Idaho. I'm talking April to May.
You just have to shop around and even see if you can get an order in right now.
Is everybody's sold out pretty much?
If I had 10,000 packages right now, I could sell them the first week in March. I could move them all easily.
Well, I don't want packages. I just want just queens.
Well, you got to have queens for them. See, so when you're selling packages, you put queens in them.
Okay.
So that's why your queens. You're not going to get a surplus of queens and probably until early, maybe the second week in April, because everybody that's got queens is going to start putting them in packages.
Well, I will. You know, where I'm at, we're not going to have weather for any splitting until probably end of April to May.
If you contact a lot of my students, they're just getting started and they might not be overloaded like what we get up here. There's Jamie's over here, Wade's got stuff. I mean, we got 6 or 8 students in here right now. If you're out west, Bryant's got a bunch of stuff. Joe May's up north there.
Yeah, I'm 100 miles from the Canadian border, so we're 2 months out before we start doing anything.
David Distram, he probably has some out there, but he might not be turning anything loose until, I would say, another 5 weeks.
Yeah, that would be a problem. Who's that?
David Stram. He's on Facebook. Joe probably got his phone number. I think he's talked to him, Joe May.
Okay. I'll try to find him then.
There he is over in the corner there. Got so many people in here. I got blocks all over the place. They're running around the back of my computer.
Okay, I'll try to look him up.
Okay. John Roten, go ahead.
Yeah, hey Don.
Hey.
I got a couple of questions, but one of them is in the spring when you do your splits, and say you got a strong hive there and you put nukes there, is it very likely that strong hive will try to rob that nuke?
Not necessarily. That's why we like to run on the nukes. We run solid bottoms with a 1-inch hole, and we start them out with like 1 frame of honey or 1 frame of the minimum amount of brood.
Yeah. Reason I asked, I told you I had transferred that hive to a nuke, and there wasn't many bees left, but the hive next to it has robbed it out this week.
Well, are you feeding them, open feeding or something?
No, it's just, there wasn't a queen, and there wasn't but maybe a double handful of bees left in there.
Yeah.
I told you I had put a frame of brood in there, but I noticed this week that there's lots of build up a little pieces of wax in the front, and they were swarming in front, and they were robbing it. It's what they did.
They might have been so far gone that they didn't want to reproduce.
I think that they were.
Yeah.
The other question is that little beetle trap you're putting boric acid in. Do the beetles die in there and stop the hose up, or do they eat it and come out and die, or what?
Usually the beetles are drove into those holes, and when they die in there, the bees will actually put propolis over the holes.
Okay.
Unless you have a severe beetle problem, I haven't put them in here for 2 years, and we don't have a bad beetle problem. We just we do a lot of change outs and manipulate
Mhm.
those hives.
Well, I'm putting the baffles around mine because the beetles are horrible here. And I've just had them this year, and I mean, gosh, I'd go in a hive and probably see 100 in there just real quick.
How often do you go in that hive?
I was going into it probably once every 2 weeks,
You
and
might
I
want
was
to go in
killing as
there.
many as I could.
You might want to go in there and change it out every 2 weeks, and then make sure you move the queen to that new stand that what you put there and smash as many as you can. Another thing is once you put the queen in the new box, shake all the bees off. Take your hive tool and bump on the side of the frame, and you can knock them out, dislodge them from that comb.
Mm-hmm.
That's another thing we do.
I done that this fall. I went through each frame and I would shake them off into my lid, and I'd kill all the hive beetles in it. And I pretty much eradicated them, but what I've been into them already, there's not a lot in there, but there are some hive beetles back in there already.
It's got to keep maintaining. That's all it is.
Right.
You can't just not go in them often enough.
Okay. Well, that was my question.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Jill May, go ahead.
Don, we're gonna sell a queen out of a mini nuke. How long should I wait to put a queen cell in or a virgin back in that mini nuke?
You mean when you cage a queen?
Yep.
We put them in within an hour or so. I mean, they don't hurt nothing.
Okay. No time. I mean, just right after the fact.
Yeah. They're just like they're changing gears. They don't miss a stroke.
Okay. Just want to make sure. Well, I've heard people talk about 24 hours, and I found that sometimes the bees start making cells in 24 hours. If they start making cells, sometimes they won't accept a cell.
Well, I was reading a few things that was on my page today, and I try to explain to people the backyard beekeeper will give you a lot of advice that you're not going to make any money. You have to listen to somebody that does commercial techniques to make money. I mean, a lot of people take a hive, if it's a 10-frame hive, and make 2 splits. You need to make at least 9 splits off of it, You have to risk the minimal amount of bees to make the most amount of nukes or queens. And they're just doing backyard techniques, and it'll make a queen, it'll make a nuke, but the ones that they don't make, you lose a lot of bees in the process.
Okay. Well, I've sold nukes and put virgins back in immediately right after before they ever get to the end of the driveway. I have good luck with it. I just want to make sure it was all right on the mini nuke. That's all I got.
Okay. Kim, go ahead.
This week, yesterday I had a swarm, and it went about 30 foot from the house, and I caught it. And they marched in the box, good and everything. And about 2 hours later, they left again. I hadn't seen them. What should I have done to maybe keep them there?
Well, first of all, did you just shake them in front of the hive and just let them walk in?
They landed on the post at my deck, and
you just brushed them down to the ground and let them climb in.
They climbed right in, just perfect.
Did you sit there and watch and see how many queens went in?
I didn't see no queens. I watched for a while.
They wouldn't have marched in that box if they didn't have a queen with them.
But they had their tail up, there's fanning, and
Yeah, well, usually when they got their tail up, they're calling queen. Now they might call like that, and you might have 2 or 3 going there, and then they could be fighting too.
Right.
You never have a swarm with just 1 queen. You'll have a minimum 2, 3, and farther out in the summer, you might have as many as 20 or 30. Especially if you're mating more than 1 queen in your bee yard.
Well, somebody told me that maybe I should have closed the butt. Maybe.
No.
That won't work.
It's not cattle. You can't make them stay. If they don't stay, there might be something that in the box or something that's not right. Or maybe the queen was damaged or didn't get mated. Maybe they just flew out and congregated on that post and she didn't fly out and mate. Did it come from one of your own hives?
I put
what was the temperature?
About 75 degrees yesterday.
Was it real windy?
It was about lunchtime.
It's possible. The box that you put them in, I would reduce the entrance down and I'd leave it sit there for 2 or 3 days. Sometimes they'll go out and they'll come back the next day.
Okay. But we had a nice little swarm.
Making queens is a learning curve.
All right, that's all I got to say.
All right. Tim, go ahead.
Hey Don.
Hey.
When should I open up the entrance? I still got mine reduced down to the 3/8 by 3/4. When should I open it up to the 3-inch wide opening?
Are you up north?
Simpsonville. I'm in South Carolina.
You should be a minimum of 3 inches right now.
I'll change that up tomorrow then.
3/4 is like when you first set a box up. You're not going to get enough traffic going in and out. And if you got a big amount of bees in there, you could get a closed opening. If you got any die-offs that clog up your entrance.
Okay. Well, I did lose that one hive a couple of weeks ago, and this one was running a little weak, so I left it reduced down during the wintertime. But they're starting to populate. There's a lot of them flying around now, and I thought about opening it up, but I was going to check with you first.
Before you open it up, go through there and check it and see what you got. If
Sure.
you got plenty of bees in there, open it to 3 inches.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, nobody else has their hand raised. Who's got a question? Ernest, go ahead.
Yeah, I put the 10 frames and I divide them up and put a hole on each end, but how do you tilt that? Now you got to keep it level, or you can't tilt it. You got the bees coming out one end, one out the other end. I just wondered, did I hear something wrong, or should I have them all coming out the same end?
No, what you done, you took a 10 frame box and you converted it to 2 5-frame boxes?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, the other fellow was asking about how far to lean them forward, and I said, maybe 1.5 inches, but he wanted to jack the back of the whole stand up. Now, there's a case where you don't want the back of that stand up. Now, that's a case where you want that box almost level.
Yeah, well, what I did is I put a little canopy over the back of the one so the rain wouldn't go in it.
Mm-hmm. If you got a 1-inch hole there, you're not going to get no rain in there.
I didn't want any rain coming in, so I just stapled a little piece of vinyl over it, and that took care of that problem.
Whenever you're going to use a bunch of 10 frame, convert it like that, the best thing to do is run them all in one row. That way you can keep the stands fairly level.
You mean put both holes in the front of it then, huh?
No, you put one in the front on one side and one in the rear on the other side. But being that way,
on another stand, you mean?
Have a stand just designated just for the 10 frame double deeps, or double 5-frame.
Yeah, all of those are doing well. The big hive I had to reduce it down, like one fellow said. They were working good today, and if they're bringing in pollen, are they queening that hive or not?
If you got pollen coming in, more than likely you have a queen in there laying, because the pollen's used for baby food. They mix it up, and feed it to the young. If they're not bringing pollen in there, either you don't have a queen in there laying, or you don't have a queen at all.
Yeah, I mixed up that pollen like you showed that guy flipping bees. I forget his name.
Yeah.
And man, they just go crazy over that.
Oh yeah. Now, when you're feeding pollen like that, I would suggest setting that out away from your hives.
I did.
Yeah.
I did. I got it on a table a good ways off from the hive.
Now, all you have to do with that is maybe a cup or two at a time. Let them clean it up. Then add some more to it.
I did that, and boy, they cleaned it up quick. I got to go get some more material to to build up more now.
Yep.
Okay, that's pretty much what I have. Thank you.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Jed, go ahead.
Yeah, hey Don.
Hey.
Jed, first time I've actually asked a question here. Been on a few times. I'm really appreciate everything you do to help us out. I've got Italians, a few Italians, and I was wondering if you could give me the characteristics of the carnies. Are they gentle like the Italians?
Well, the most difference that I found with them is the Italians, they're not real smart. I mean, the queen will lay like crazy and they'll starve themselves out. Your Carniolan's the queen's going to lay based on the amount of pollen coming in. The same with the Russian. The Russian is basically, they run the same like that. If there's not much pollen coming in and you're trying to build real fast, you almost have to substitute, and add to it. The queen on the Italians, I mean, I've seen them lay full patterns all the way out in the end of October. And then that's one reason why I think they're just dumb. I mean, they got certain characteristics, but they just starved themselves out. They got all that brood hatching out in a month and a half, and there's nothing there. Whatever they got stored, they eat it up.
So would the carnies be better, more efficient, or if you were raising bees to sell, or would the Italians be better? I didn't quite understand. I'm sorry.
Well, that's like, type of car I got and the type of car you got or the type of truck you got. Whatever you like, the Italians, you're going to be able to sell more bees off of it. I mean, that's one way to look at it. If you want bees, you want to be able to work most of the time. I would say Carniolans are a cross between Italian and Carniolan. They're going to be a more gentle bee, and they'll be, bee that's going to go through the winter. So, people that want a honey production, they're going to get more of a purebred Italian and make good honey production, but you got to substitute feed, in wintertime or break them down good. That comes with just experience. You're going to, some people don't like Caucasian bees. People that want to make high dollars on comb honey, they like Caucasians because they make the nice white wax for some reason. They make white wax and they like to propolize everything up and everything's glued down good. So one bee might have one characteristic that you like and another one won't. That's, like on your Caucasians, that's why I like this here. And people tell me they like a J-hook. Well, your J-hook has got you that much more leverage. If you watch the videos, I work my hives a lot of time with my fingers. Pull the frames apart and pull them out. You got to use a crowbar. You ain't been in your hive enough because, manipulation will keep them free. And then a lot of people don't even think about it. There's a gap. There's almost an inch, anywhere from 7/8 to an inch and an eighth gap. If you pushed all the frames to one side on a 5-frame, 8-frame, 10-frame, doesn't make any difference. That's the space they use to put a queen cage in. When you get done with your hive, what I recommend students do is push them all to one side, then go to the other side and center them. That way they're easy. You have a little gap, you push them to one side and you pull that outside frame and then work towards the middle. Never open a hive and pull that center frame out. You're just going to roll a queen.
Thank you, Don. Appreciate it.
Okay, let's see. Sean, go ahead.
This is not so much a question, but I had a difficult time finding number 8 hardware cloth. So if anybody else is looking for it, I got 100-foot, 2-foot wide on jet.com delivered to the house for $80. So just a heads up for everyone.
It is hard to find. I bought the wrong one at Home Depot 3 times.
I bought the wrong one too, so don't feel bad.
John Roten, go ahead.
Yeah. A lot of them don't call it number 8 hardware cloth. A lot of them just call it 1/8 of an inch. My question, Don, was I'm going to try to make queen cells by cutting them out, and I've made me a couple of frames and put a crossbar across the middle. Do you just put the 1-inch strips you cut out on the very top bar and the middle bar? You can't put it on the bottom. They'd be turned the wrong way, correct?
Well, if you're going to use that method, you want 3 bars in there. So what you have to do is take some of your old 3/4 by 3/8 and cut you You want to come up off the bottom about 2 inches. And then
Okay.
you put a bar across that, and then put you another piece against the sidebar. And what you're creating is a slot where you can slide these bars in, and then you do one at the top. So you'll have 3 bars in there. And all you
Okay,
have to do is take your bar and lay it down on the table and just rub it with regular beeswax.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you cut your cells out, just take your thumb and just push down on it, and move over an inch. Space them out about a little finger between each time you push down.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you got 3 cells there, you can either cut them out as a twin or a triplet, or sometimes the bees will pull out that extra cell and you'll make one good cell. So
Okay.
that method there with 3 bars, you can make a minimum of 10, 12 queens. And
So now
that's-
you're saying 3 bars, is that putting 2 bars in the middle, including the top bar as 1 bar?
well, you have one on the bottom. So you put a short piece at the bottom, and then you set a bar in there. Then
Okay.
you put another 2 inch. You'll have one right at the top coming down. All the bars, all 3 of them should pull out of that frame.
But is the top bar considered a bar, or will I have a third one in between?
You'll have an extra bar right next to it.
Oh,
It has
okay,
to
okay.
be removable. See, when you hold
Okay.
your frame up, you take that one right at the top and you slide it out.
Right.
Because when you're going to push it on, it's got to stand straight up. And then when you push it, get them all done, you set them in the bar and just slide them in like a little
Okay.
shelves.
Okay, well, I made me 2, and they will slide in that, but I just put 1 bar in the center of each one of them.
That's fine. When I got new students that are trying to graft, I use medium frames at 2 bars. If I have
Okay.
someone who's been experienced, I use 3 bars.
Okay.
Because it just takes
Well-
a little bit longer.
Whenever I do have the queens there, do I take them out before they hatch, I presume?
Yep.
And you just cut a section out with the queen cell and put it in the nuke hive
Yep.
that you've put some bees in.
Yep.
And you
If you're
put the
going to
bees
do
in
it,
there.
if you're going to press it down, but Joe's got one sitting up there. Yes. You see how Joe's is right there?
I don't see it.
He's in my top right corner.
I see you.
Are you in speaker view, John?
I don't know.
Top right
Speaker
corner of the
view.
screen, it should say speaker view or gallery view.
You see that anywhere? No, I don't see that.
Huh. All right. Let me see if I can share Joe's screen. Here, Joe, hold it up again.
Oh, here we go.
See it now?
Right, I see it now. Okay. So there's three bars in there. Okay.
Yep.
Well, I ain't got the 3rd one in. It's missing.
Right.
Okay.
Well, I take them out like on what day would I take those out?
Well, you look at them and you can tell. Now, the bars that he's got his bars, he ran them down a saw and he put a kerf down the center of it. He's using plastic pushing bars.
Right.
Now, are you going to cut your cells out?
Yeah.
All right, what I would do is take either a little baster and I would run you 2 or 3 lines of hot wax on the bars. You want to build it up like a pyramid. That way, when you set your cell on top, you can slide a paring knife or a little knife right underneath and they come off real easy.
Right. And I take that cell and just, in the nuke, I just stick it between the frames at the top of the frames, or what? How do I put it in there?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of ways you do it. We use a frame of honey to start. So we put it against the side wall and push the frame of honey up against it.
Oh, okay.
But once you got 4 or 5 frames that's drawn out, you can just set it between 2 frames right in the middle.
And it still has to point down, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, that always has to point down.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, making queens is not hard. The one Joe's got is they're JBZ or plastic cups or something. There's some people like them. I'm old fashioned. I like the wood and the wax, and we use dowel rods to make our. In fact, I'll bring it up next week and I'll show you how we dip them. And all it is 3/8 dowel rods or either 5/16, and you just want to round the tips off a little bit. And then you just get your little plastic container, soak it a little bit, make it soak up for 10, 15 minutes. And then you just dip it up and down a couple times in hot wax and let it cool. Then set it down into your water again and just give them a quarter turn and they'll fall right off.
Huh. Okay.
I like the wood and the wax. There's several ways you can tell. I like to look at the end. They'll usually start to chew on the end and they'll thin it out. It'll be a lighter color from a chocolate color to a light beige looking. And sometimes you can put them in your ear. If it's dry, just put it in your ear. You can feel them crawling or you can hear them crawling and scratching. Another thing is you take and put them between your fingers and hold them up towards the sun. It's like candling eggs. The sunlight comes through. You can actually see that queening there moving.
Oh, okay.
When I do it, I like to use light colored wax. Don't use dark wax. Use the lightest wax you got. You can see through them better.
Right. Well, I've cut my plastic frames down to 2 inches. I'm going to let them build the wax so I can raise my queens in that new wax.
Yeah, that's the way to go.
Okay. So in other words, I'm going to be in there every few days after day 7 or so, seeing what stage they're at.
If I was you, just learning, I would go in there after you put them in there 5 days and then just gently lift them up until you get an idea of what they look like at different stages.
And I'm putting that in a hive that's got a queen in it also, right?
Well, you can do it with a queen or without. I mean, there's different ways. One's called a queen ride hive. The other one's called they call them a cell builder. I don't like to stretch my things that small, that thin. I think they make better cells if they're producing honey, nectar, and pollen and everything, rather than make an emergency. That's what backyard beekeepers do. They make emergency situation where they remove the queen and all the bees, they stop working the honey and concentrate more on developing queens.
Right.
So that's why they call them an emergency cell, which basically are about the same. There ain't much difference as far as quality, I don't think.
Okay. I just kind of concerned that she's not going to go around and try to kill them then. With the queen in there, she won't try to kill them that you're raising then, right?
Well, if you're putting an extra super or two on there, it's possible. I mean, nothing is guaranteed. At this time of the year, usually they'll walk around queen cells. They're not going to bother them because that's the normal time they're going to start swarming.
Okay.
If you get your hive crowded or get it honey bound, they're going to make cells with the queen in there. That's just a natural process.
Right. Well, I don't want but one of those frames in there I'm raising queens on though, right?
Well,
just one frame and a half?
You can use 2 or 3. I mean, I
don't know
what.
Right now I've only got 2 hives left out of 4, but they're really strong hives.
Yeah.
And I was going to try to bust them up and go from there, get as much as I could out of them.
Yeah. Well, once you get the hang of it, you could go as fast as you want and build as fast. We normally use deep frames and we put 3 bars and we average 14, 15 cells to the bar. So on a 5-frame box, we'll put 2 of those frames in there. That gives us 90 cells. And we hope to get 60 to 70 good ones out of it. Sometimes you can get 80, 85. That's on a grafting situation.
With just 2 hives then that I'm splitting up, if I've got 2 built, that I'll have 2 places to put cone on with eggs in it, that would probably be all the queens I'd need then, wouldn't it?
You don't need but 1 bar in there because 1 bar, you're more than likely going to get 6, 8 queens.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I ought to be in good shape then.
Yeah. Build you more boxes.
Okay. I've got plenty built. I thought I was going to have more hives to split up, but I'm down to 2, so I'm going to work with what I've got this year.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Jason, go ahead.
Where you showed about how you made your 5-gallon or your 5-gallon water bucket feeders, where you turn them upside down, drilled the little holes around them. Were you just feeding water in those, or is there some mixture you put in those?
You mean to make a feeder from a 5-gallon bucket?
Yeah, well, I was wondering in one of your older videos, you alluded to that maybe you had some kind of mix that you were putting in there to feed them.
We mix a sugar water, and sometimes we put our brood builder in there, or we put tea tree oil in there, wintergreen, spearmint, and we're making like a honeybee healthy or a brood builder. I call it a brood builder. And all we're doing is just turning the 5-gallon lid upside down, or the bucket, and then they got little webbing at the top. And usually for a small amount of hives, about every third one, just run a drill through it. You know, I think it's the smallest drill that's in a standard drill box.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Paul, go ahead.
Getting back to these hive beetles, do they fly into the hive, or do they have wings, or do they crawl in there?
They'll fly.
Oh, they do fly.
So you could go through your hive and have absolutely no beetles at all. And if a truck goes down the road hauling bees, a commercial beekeeper or somebody else moving bees, you could go out there 10 minutes later, you could have 200 or 300 in each hive. And they claim they fly 4 to 5 miles.
Wow.
That's what people that study them that say. Just maintain your hive, keep it under control, and you shouldn't have no problem.
Now, do you recommend using screen bottom boards, or, I mean, right now I just have the solid bottom boards.
That's the way I do. I tried screen bottom boards when they come out. You're not convincing me they do nothing. Screen bottom boards, you know, you walk on your ground first thing in the morning, your feet get wet, the sun hits it, that moisture goes up. Usually people that have them have moisture problems, fungal problems, they're losing their hives. If you think more like a tree in the woods, they don't have all them gizmos, and the bees live. I've never seen a tree in a forest with a metal roof or queen excluder, inner covers, bottom boards. It's all built with screens and stuff. Just keep it as simple as possible, more closer to nature.
So now, I know you don't recommend using queen excluders, but say you have your honey supers on there, and the queen ends up in one of your supers laying eggs. I mean, what, you just reverse that, or?
What you're asking is what 99% of all the beekeepers come and talk to me about. And I ask them one thing: why do you have bees? What do you want? You want honey? Is that what you want?
I want honey, yeah.
Okay. Now, think about it. More bees make more honey? Does it make more sense to put more boxes on? Because you're saying you don't want the queen to lay in your honey box. That queen is pretty smart. She knows what the honey flow is. She knows how high to go. So if she's going up into the honey, just add more boxes. The minute you put that queen excluder on there, you shorten the life of all them bees in there by 50%. They have to squeeze through, it wears their wings out. And if you got a small cell queen, if she gets halfway through that queen excluder, it gets stuck. You lost the queen.
Well, I just don't want to, you know, being that I'm just starting out, I mean, I don't want to throw that many boxes on there and overwhelm the bees.
Well, you got to do it easy, slowing it. But you don't need a queen excluder. I have queen excluders here, and the main reason we use them is we got new students shaking packages. And they check the frames. They're going through a hive within about less than a minute, minute and a half. They're spotting the queen. If they don't spot the queen and we're shaking bees, we shake them through a queen excluder. Just as an extra insurance policy, that's all it is.
Yeah. All right, thanks, Don.
Keith, go ahead.
Hey, Don. When are you going to start raising queens this time of year?
I probably got queen cells right now. I haven't been over to check the graveyard yet. And Wade went by there and he said the bees are busting out, so I need to get over there. But I got tied up yesterday, so hopefully I'll get over there tomorrow.
So you're actually seeing drones fly?
Oh yeah.
Okay, I'm about the same north-south as you, and I hadn't seen any drones yet.
Don't assume because someone says all the drones are dead in the winter. Nature doesn't do that. They maintain a certain amount of drones, and then as the weather warms up, the drone starts to increase. So if you're looking in your hive and you see a lot of new drone comb that's capped, you know, keep it on them because in about 3 weeks they're getting ready to go.
Okay. You mentioned a minute ago you have a brood builder recipe with essential oils.
Yeah.
What is that? What is it?
It's actually essential oils we put in with the sugar water.
I understand that. Is it the same that you went through a couple of weeks ago? Is that the same recipe?
Probably. You know, springtime we add more tea tree oil to it.
Yeah.
In the fall we put a lot of tea tree oil to it. But your main ingredients is spearmint, wintergreen, a little bit, very little of the lemongrass oil. And if you're wanting to put like Mega Bee in it or some pollen substitute, you need to blend that up good in your mixer and then put it in your solution, or it'll just clump up on you.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
All right, Jamie, go ahead.
Hey, Don, I got a question.
Okay, how do I get my screen back here? I've only got 4 pictures in the corner.
Top right corner, it's either says speaker view or gallery view.
Gallery view, all right. There, let's see, I learned something tonight. Darn.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep, I hear you.
Okay, I just wanted to ask a question. Treatment of foul brood. What do you got on that?
I hope I don't. If you get foul brood, the best thing to do is burn it.
Okay.
I mean, it's not that prevalent. You're going to get it a lot of times if you bought old equipment that's been stored for a while.
Right.
As cheap as boxes are to either buy or build, I wouldn't take a chance on it. Now, you can get European foul brood, and your antibiotic will clear it up, but you shouldn't even be getting that if you're maintaining your bees healthy. Putting those oils in there will keep them healthy, and it's the cheapest way to keep them healthy.
I've heard people say you could put a VHS queen in there. If you requeen, that would help too. What's your take on that?
Well, I mean, I'm not putting anybody's VSH queens down, but the people that I talked to said they're pretty mean. And I haven't seen that much results personally.
Yeah, I've seen their mean. I've tried them before. I just want to know what you thought about it.
I think I would just buy queens from a reputable person that their stock and maintain the hive. You're going to have to do some treatments. There's no such thing as a treatment-free bee. I mean, there's a lot of advertisement out there. This bee was none or very few. It's just like artificial insemination of queens. Nobody can guarantee it. So, they're selling you a bill of goods, I believe.
All right. So if a fellow want to try a couple of your queens later in the year, would you have them available after April?
Probably after May right now, because we're booked pretty good right now up into May right now. Best thing to do is always keep checking, because we have people that from up north buy our packages, nukes, and sometimes it might get cold up there. It turns cold for a week or two. They start postponing and move their dates around.
All right. Okay. That was
Where do you live, Jamie?
Pennsylvania, northern Pennsylvania.
Joe May's up there, and I've got 2 or 3 other students over in that area. Joe's probably going to have a bunch of them. He's one of my students. He got my stock.
Okay, I'll have to touch base with him then.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just south of Erie, north of Pittsburgh.
Okay.
Western Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. No other questions on the hand there. Anybody got a question? No? Going once? Going twice? Oh, John does. Go ahead, John.
I got one. Hey, I heard you say that you need to check your bees. They're flying a bunch. Mine have been flying a bunch. How soon you think I should start trying to raise my queens?
Well, if you got warm enough weather, keep them confined. I mean, don't put brood boxes on top or honey boxes, and they'll make them by themselves. My whole thing here is time. When I plan on going out and doing something always comes up. I got people in and out here all the time, so I'm going to start making a little rule. If they ain't here by 9:30, I'm going to head to my out yards because I got to take care of my stuff.
Okay. So in other words, here in the next few weeks, I could probably start doing my splits in.
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
Make sure you get a queen cell and it's capped before you try to make splits. That's your safest way.
Right. Well, we've got our, plums and pears and stuff are halfway blooming. Some of them are in full bloom, but a lot of them are have started.
Well, all across the country, everybody's 5-6 weeks. I just talked to a guy. He's down Waycross, and he said he's 6 to 12 weeks ahead. And I know right now I am at least 6 weeks. Our privet is already blooming in my front yard. Red maples is blooming. There's a lot of stuff out there blooming right now that should not be blooming.
Right.
So I'm afraid we're going to have everything at one time and maybe nothing, in about 2 months.
That's true. All right, thank you. I'm going to get into them and try to get something started pretty quick then.
Okay.
Nobody else that I see. It's almost 9 o'clock. Do we want to call it a night then if nobody else has any other questions?
Pat, Pat didn't get one last time. I
Oh,
told her.
there she goes.
I told her do this.
Go ahead,
sometimes
Well, I just had a comment because y'all were talking about treatment-free bees, and it is possible. I have never used chemicals, and this is my 10th year, but I do brood break, I do powder sugar dusting, I do brood break again. So, I mean, if you have a system that you follow and you're in your bees often enough, you can be chemical-free. It is possible because I don't use them. I've never put any chemicals of any kind in there.
Did you say you put roach bait in there?
No, I've never used
Oh, I thought I heard you say roach bait.
You're hallucinating.
Okay.
With the small hive beetle problem, are your hives in full sun? Or, I mean, that's kind of you can get rid of those normally. So I'm kind of wondering why he's got so many.
Well, I have a lot of people come here and tell me I'm doing a lot of things wrong. And I've got a lot of students that's been here. A lot of my hives are in a thicket of pine. So I've got some towards the back that are in a low area that sometimes in the morning there's a little bit of fog there. And, people say you can't do that. I put them in different places to show people, it's the way you maintain a hive.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what my point is. It's how you maintain your bees. You can't put them in that low, wet area and not check them and go back and expect a lot of honey and no bugs. You got to get them. You got to know what's going on, that kind of thing. But there again, I'm just kind of wondering why one place would have so many hive beetles and somebody else doing similar things doesn't have very many. Is there something that attracts them more, like a certain plant or a certain area that attracts them more?
The only thing that I know it kind of attracts them is beekeepers getting lazy. I mean, when I start looking at a lot of beekeepers want to start building numbers up, and then pretty soon they got 10, then 20, then they don't get in their hives as often. Then something comes up, like I'm running a bunch of hives. I needed to have been over there a week ago. It's just other things are more pressing sometimes.
Yeah.
So if you maintain a hive, you shouldn't have them out of control.
I think Joe wants to add something there.
Yeah, Pat, a lot of it's got to do with soil composition. If you're in sandy, loose soils, you'll have a lot more hive beetles than you will in clay. Because in the summertime, when it gets hot and dry, the larvae can't burrow down in the clay to pupate. So that's why some areas have more than others. One reason, it ain't the only reason, but it's one reason.
Makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
Wade ain't gonna say nothing tonight.
Paul, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I kept bees 30 years ago, and there was no mention of hive beetles back then. Where did they come from?
There was a lot of stuff was imported, like fire ants. We never had no mite problems until probably early 80s. When I was a kid, you could go out to the woods, cut a tree down, put the bees in a box, and then go once or twice a year, pull honey. I mean, that was the thing. Now, if you don't maintain and check a hive, you're going to have problems. And the biggest thing I got wax moth, and my hives ate up with wax moth. That come just from a beekeeper that wasn't in his hive. He didn't check for queen cells. The hive swarmed on them, and then it got weak. Then the wax moth moved in. Wax moth to me is beekeeper error or laziness. That's all that comes from. Beetles, you could be on top of your hives, and you're still going to have some beetles. But if you're on them enough, you can keep them under control. I mean, that's all it is you got to manipulate those hives.
Don, I was watching your videos where you had some vandalism with the bug spray. How did you ever make out with that?
Buy a lot of more bees and replace them with. That's all. I mean, you can't sit out there guard, your thing. It's like out yards. You can't sit at a shotgun at every one of your bee yards. You got to take it, hope for the best.
Yeah.
If,
No, I
you know,
know.
if you get to the point where you're worried about 1 yard or another yard, then the best thing you do is don't do beekeeping. Just put your money in the bank and leave it there. I mean, you're going to have to buy a certain amount of bees or don't sell no bees and actually start building and building and building, because what happens is once you start selling, it's a one-way street. It sells faster and faster. Pretty soon you don't have no stock left. That's number one thing that my students say, can I sell bees? I don't know if I can sell bees. And once they open that door, it's hard to close it.
Yeah. No, it's just like it concerns me a little bit because I have a place up north about 3 hours from where I am now, and I'm up there every other weekend. It just worries me a little bit.
Always have at least 2 hives at every location. That way, in case one gets weak, you can pull stuff from that, or if you lose a queen. That's
Well,
just
I'm going to start out with 5 this year, so we'll see how things go. So.
Okay.
All right, Don. Thanks.
Okay.
Okay, well, it's 9 o'clock. If nobody else has any other questions, we'll call it a wrap tonight.
Okay. Somebody else waving their hand, or is
Sean, you have a question, Sean?
No, I was just saying bye. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
All right.
Appreciate everybody coming in tonight. Thanks for watching.
All right, thanks, everyone. See you next week.
Okay.
Thanks,
Take
Todd.
care.